Isn't that worth fighting for? Isn't that worth dying for?
The Matrix Reloaded, the sequel to one of the best science fiction films ever made. But how does it hold up today? Before I get into it, this is going to be full of spoilers for The Matrix Reloaded. You have been warned. There was so much hype around this film when it was being released. I mean, when you make a sequel to one of the best science fiction films ever, and you bring on the same actors, the same directors, the same writers, the same producers, same everything, what could go wrong? This is going to be the best movie ever made. In reading initial reviews and initial reactions to this film, it's easy to say that almost everyone was let down. But it's been over 18 years since this film has come out, and now we can watch it without all the hype around it, all the expectations, just watch it as a film and see how it is. And The Matrix Reloaded is a fine sequel. There's a lot of things that I think are really great, that aged really well, but then there are a lot of things that are pretty stupid, did not age well at all. What I like that the Wachowskis did in The Matrix Reloaded is they really expanded the world of The Matrix. Not just The Matrix, but outside the Matrix. We actually get to see Zion. We're introduced to a lot more characters. It's a breathing world. And inside the Matrix, there's a lot of other things that were expanded to as well. I love here how Neo is a badass. He has not missed a beat from the original film. In the opening scene, he's beating the shit out of these agents that we established in the first film were fucking dangerous. And in this movie, Neo's just fucking with them. He's like, ooh, upgrades. And he's just kicking the shit out of them. He's toying with them. It's fucking awesome. The action here hasn't changed at all. They get some upgrades. There are some downgrades we'll talk about in a second. But there's a lot of upgrades in this action. You can tell the budget's a little bit better. The Wachowskis had a little bit more experience. There are some great wide shots, great hand-to-hand combat, just like in the original film. It emulates well here and Reloaded as well. But with some downgrades, I have to say, I completely disagree with the choice the Wachowskis did of implementing a lot of CGI in this film, because it does not look good at all. There are some scenes the CGI looks fine, but there's a lot of scenes where it looks fucking terrible, and at that point, you just take the CGI out. I mean, specifically, when Neo is fighting all the Smith agents, which they don't really explain how Smith comes back. I guess he got unplugged or something when Neo killed him. Whatever, it's cool that he's back. I like what he does in Reloaded and Revolutions. The fact that he's back is really fucking cool. But that one scene where they're fighting in the city, like, basketball court or wherever that was, it's good at first. There's a lot of hand-to-hand combat, and it's fucking crazy how many Smith agents come out of nowhere. But there's a point where everyone just turns into CGI, and Neo's doing the spinning thing with a pole, and it looks fucking terrible. I can't imagine that it looked good in 2003 when this film came out. It looks bad now. It did not age well at all. There are other scenes where the CGI does look really bad. I guess I just don't know why they use so much, because it seems like in the first Matrix, there wasn't too much CGI, only when they're outside the Matrix, and then whenever the Smiths had to do something really fucking strange. But overall, there just wasn't much CGI in the first film. So I don't know why they use so much in Reloaded, because like I said, a lot of it does not look good. Rewatching this last night, I noticed that the first half of the film does take a little bit to get going. It's cool to see Zion. It's cool to see these new characters and this world expanded. But I guess rewatching it for like the fifth time, it really is kind of a slow burner at first. I mean, I really never understood the big rave orgy that they have. I get that they're celebrating and all that, but that goes on for a while. I get they're being like stylistic, but I don't know. A little bit of that just got a little bit weird for me. And I remember seeing The Matrix Reloaded, there was a lot of things I didn't understand what they were saying because they used big words, I'll be completely honest. And there was a lot of philosophies and a lot of symbolism that I just didn't get. Now when I watch it, I understand all of it. And I think a lot of it really works, and I think a lot of it actually aged pretty well. But I can see why in 2003, if you're seeing this for the first time, why you'd be disappointed and just ask yourself, what the fuck, in a lot of the decisions that they made. I think some of it's aged pretty well. I think the idea, I guess we're getting ahead of ourselves right now, but I guess the idea that Neo really isn't the one, he's like the 7th or 6th version of the one, and the one is really just this algorithm or this anomaly in the Matrix, where his purpose is really just to go reset the Matrix, like a system reboot. And I can see why that really pissed people off. But I thought that was pretty fascinating. The way that the Wachowskis have all this symbolism in these Matrix films, especially the second and third one. The third one we'll get into when we review that. When Reloaded, there's a lot of ideology and symbolism that I think really works, and I find it pretty interesting when you watch more videos about it, you do a little more research, you can see what they're going for, and some of it's very fascinating. But a lot of it can be a little bit too strange. A lot of it can beat over your head, especially in Revolutions. Like I said, we'll get into that in a different video. But after all these years of watching Reloaded a bunch of times, I've always thought that conversation the architect has with Neo was always so interesting. And I always thought it was interesting that the reason why Neo somewhat breaks the code is because he has Trinity. It's the first time that the One has someone to love. Or that's how I'm at least interpreting it, or what I read about. I think that's what they're going for. In a way, they're subverting your expectations, because you watch The Matrix and you think Neo's the one, he's going to save everyone. And then you watch Reloaded, it's like, forget all of that. That's not what you're supposed to think anymore. There's a new path being made. There's new choices being made. That is extremely risky by the Wachowskis. I got to give them so much credit for doing that. Because like I've been saying, this film wasn't praised at all when it first came out. It pissed off a lot of fans. I think the idea that they're going for is actually executed very well, and it aged very well. Yes, there are things that are a little bit too confusing, even after watching this film like 5 times. And there are some times where symbolism is beaten over your head. But I gotta say, I gotta respect the Wachowskis for what they were doing. They didn't pander to like the audience, basically be like, Neo has to do all this and that. They're like, nope, we're gonna make the movie and write the story how we want to tell it. That's our choice. And that's exactly what the point of this film is. That's Neo's choice to go save Trinity instead of saving Zion. It's all about choices, and those choices create paths. And I think all of that is actually really well done in Reloaded. Yes, Reloaded is not even close to as good as the original film. There are some pacing issues. The story overall isn't as interesting. For the most part, the CGI is pretty fucking terrible. But there is still some things to like about Reloaded. Overall, the action is done very well. I didn't even talk about the highway chase scene. The one thing I loved about the highway chase scene is how it's set up. I feel like a lot of action movies don't do this anymore. I remember in The Empire Strikes Back when they're about to go in the Astrofield and CP3 was like, if the odds of going to the Astrofield is like 1,000,000 to 1. And Han Solo's like, never tell me the odds. And here Trinity's like, Morpheus, I thought you said never to go on the freeway. That's suicide. Morpheus is like, yeah, I said that. And let's hope I'm wrong. So instantly, you're on the edge of your seat. You're already engaged. You're like, holy shit, what's about to fucking happen? And it was really fucking cool. So you have fun with the action. And overall, the message that the Wachowskis are trying to tell, I get at the time why people are like, huh? But all these years later, I think it actually works pretty well. I guess what I'm trying to say is I appreciate The Matrix Reloaded a lot more than the first time I watched it. And if you have mixed feelings about Reloaded, maybe give it a rewatch because it might change your mind. I'll give The Matrix Reloaded 7.5 Davy Daves. I also love the soundtrack here. I didn't talk about it at all. It's like a perfect mix of different types of music. And it works perfectly for this Matrix universe. I thought that was really cool. Now we have Matrix Revolutions left. Before Resurrections, of course. And I haven't seen Revolutions in a long time. I remember the first time I saw it, I did not like it at all. And who knows, maybe on rewatch, I'll appreciate some things more. But we'll see. I'm excited to rewatch it. I can't wait. But for The Matrix Reloaded, let me know what you guys thought. If you've seen it, maybe your opinion changed on it over the years. I'm curious to hear. And thank you so much for watching. Click here to see more of Davey Dave's Takes.